Hey fellas, me Trapper here. It's a beautiful day in Tennessee and I'm going to show you what I call the KISS snare set. That is the Keep It Simple set. We're going to use a snare, a piece of 14 gauge wire, and some American made pliers. That is it. Make sure they're made in America, especially these days. So let me go show you what I'm talking about and show you how to make this set. All right, we're going to set this trail up here and go between these two trees, a natural choke point. We're going to use our pair of American-made pliers, a snare, some 14 gauge wire. First thing we're going to do is we're going to uncoil our snare and get it ready. Alrighty, that's done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut us a piece of wire. Now if you'll notice, this is important. Do not skimp on your wire. You can see I've cut about a 4-foot piece of wire for this little set here. That's because it's 14 gauge. It's not very strong. We're going to double it over. Now, at this point, I've got my piece of wire doubled up. Notice it doesn't have to be wrapped tight or anything like that. It's just doubled. Now this is not only going to be our snare support, but it's also going to anchor our snare to this tree. And the way that I do that is I take my doubled up piece of wire and I slide it through the loop end of the snare. If you have a swivel on the end of your snare, slide it through the swivel. Now, at this point, I'm going to get my support positioned where I want it. And this next step is important. When I go to twist this, I'm getting that as tight to the tree as I can. I want that at a good tight fit. Like that. Now at this point, my snare is anchored to the tree with a double layer of 14 gauge, 2 strands of 14 gauge. I don't trust a single strand of 14 gauge, but I do trust 2 strands of 14 gauge. I've got a double support that's good and steady. It's not sliding up and down and around on that tree. The last step, I'm going to adjust the loop to my desired size. And then all this does, this just wraps around the pigtail of your snare here. And at that point, we're ready to position the snare how we want it. The size of the loop, height off the walking surface is going to be dependent upon your target species and upon your latitude. The higher the latitude, the bigger the animals. It's the law of latitude. So at this point, it's done. You can see that was the whole thing from start to end. It didn't take very long, and if I wasn't talking and demonstrating, it would be a lot faster than that. But it's one piece of wire, serves as the anchor and the support. The only time I have to use a pair of pliers is when I cut the wire. So once I make my cut, I can put everything back in my toolkit. Everything else is done by hand. There's no twisting anything tight. You know, no working with a driver, driving an earth anchor in or anything like that. Now, if I don't make a catch and I want to disassemble this set, since I put it together by hand, I can take it apart by hand. Simply untwist that. Come in here, untwist my support and anchor, like that. Coil my snare back up. And at that point, there is no trace of anything having been set here. No wire, no snares, no earth anchor stubs sticking up out of the ground, nothing that anybody can spot. Well, I hope that was useful and informative. It's certainly a very simple way to put food on your table in these difficult and trying times. And let me tell you something, people. You ain't seen bad yet, but it's coming. We're only getting started in this inflationary collapse rodeo. Now, if you want to know how to put food on your plate by the sweat of your own brow on your own terms, I suggest you go to meattrapper.com, click on Poaching Manuals, and take a look at the 2 volumes, volume 1 and 2 of Walk with the Wild Man. They are by far the most educational, entertaining, and informative poaching manuals ever written. That I guarantee you. They're not for the faint of heart. They're not for people that want to bow down and kiss the government's ass. They're not for people that want to be a slave. They're for men who think for themselves. It was the government who created this inflationary fiasco. It's the government that is responsible for the empty shelves and the skyrocketing prices. And there's all the food that you and your family need out there if you know how to take it on your terms without asking permission from the people that want to put you in slavery. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.